I just picked up the new release of the 1989 movie Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat on Blu-ray from the Vestron Video Collector series. I actually haven't seen this one since I was a little kid, but I remember loving it back then. So does it still hold up? Well, it's complicated. So let's get down to it. I remember choosing this movie at one of the local video stores back in the early 90s as a little kid. The place was called Video Warehouse, and although the horror selection wasn't huge, it still had some obscure titles that some of the other video stores in town did not have. This movie was one of them. I actually remember reading about it in issue number 88 of Fangoria magazine when I was a kid. The jam-packed issue featured a blurb about Sundown on the cover. As I said, I vividly remember loving this movie after watching it back then, but I honestly hadn't seen it since. Now, the movie did have a DVD release back in 2008, with terrible cover art by the way, but it snuck past me. Flash forward to 2021 and I snatched up this release. Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat concerns a town in the middle of nowhere called Purgatory. We immediately open with a rockin' tune that's clearly trying to emulate the 80s hit Wild Wild West. Now, you millennials probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but it was a very popular song in the 80s that I'm guessing the makers of this movie would have loved to include. But obviously they didn't have the money to license the song, so a cheap knockoff was used instead. It is pretty catchy though. Anyway, the town is made up entirely of vampires who are led by Count Martelak, played by David Carradine. Now, the vampires apparently have renounced killing humans and are surviving off of synthetic blood. They also keep up appearances by using special sunscreen and wearing giant hats during the day. Now, David and his family arrive in town to fix the blood synthesizing machine, which he designed. None of them know of the vampires and just think the machine will be used to help with blood transfusions and that sort of thing. Oh, and I have to mention the little girls playing his daughters. Yes, I know they're just kids, and I'm sure they did their best, but damn. Like nails on a chalkboard. Now, Bruce Campbell, the man, the myth himself, also arrives in Purgatory in search of Martelak. We quickly find out that he's a vampire hunter, a descendant of Van Helsing. Bruce Campbell is fantastic, as always, but he's a bit underused here, sadly. So apparently not all of the vampires are on board with Martelak's plan of not killing humans anymore. So a group of them band together and plan to wage war on the peaceful vampires. The human characters are caught in the middle as all hell breaks loose. Sundown is a very interesting movie. It's not just a horror film, it's a western, and a comedy. Yes, we have a horror western comedy here. The western aspect is a cool touch, with the booming musical score, wide open desert landscapes, and gunfights with special bullets.
Fortified wood. Splinters on impact.
Why are they wasting them? The storyline is pretty unique, and I like the ensemble cast of familiar faces. There's some cheesy and over-the-top acting from some, but it works pretty well with the material. Hey, is that John Lovitz? Looks kinda like him. But seriously, these people have appeared in tons of stuff, including Critters, April Fool's Day, Little House on the Prairie, tons of John Carpenter films, Grease 2, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and this guy was in probably one of the most popular and well-known movies of all time, Circuitry Man. Ever see that one? There's even a part 2. The direction by Anthony Hickox is fantastic, and he really utilizes the entire widescreen aspect ratio with every shot. Now, Hickox has done a ton of great films, including Waxwork 1 and 2 and Hellraiser 3. There's some great makeup effects and nice action sequences here as well. So why wasn't I blown away by this? Well, my biggest issue was the humor. Now, some of it works, but most of it is really over the top, and it just kinda took me out of the movie at times, to be honest.
Can we still screw?
Mister, speaking of forever, what can kill us anyway?
The sun?
I really wish this film took itself a bit more seriously, because as I said, the horror and western aspects worked very well, but some of the humor was just a little too much for me. Even still, the movie is definitely worth watching. It's an interesting storyline, and it has Bruce Campbell in it. Enough said. Picture quality is fantastic, and the movie looks great on my 75-inch 4K TV. Usually they will mention on the back of the box where the transfer came from. You know, a new interpositive or 2K restoration, that sort of thing. But they didn't give any of that information here. But it looks great, and it's a nice clean print. There were a few shots that had some focus issues, but it had nothing to do with the transfer and was a result of when they originally filmed the movie. And speaking of focus issues, check out this quick shot. Yikes. Vestron has included a nice slipcover with beautiful new art. No reversible art is included, and it would have been nice getting that old VHS art here as well, but the new art is fantastic. Now unfortunately, this release includes one of those dreaded eco-friendly Blu-ray cases. I really hate these things, as they tend to damage the cover inserts over time. A digital copy is also included, which expires in August of next year. Vestron has included a nice collection of special features. This release ports over all the features from that old special edition DVD and adds some new stuff. We've got 2 commentary tracks, one with the director and another, new to this release, is an isolated score selection and audio interview track. We've got 5 interviews here, 2 of which are new to this release. One with director Anthony Hickox, which runs 16 minutes, special effects guy Tony Gardner, which runs 14.5 minutes, Bruce Campbell, which runs 13 minutes, M. Emmett Walsh, which is 11 minutes, and David Carradine, which runs 13 minutes. The interviews are fantastic and reveal some great behind-the-scenes information. Bruce Campbell's comments about working with David Carradine are especially interesting and funny. We've also got a trailer and stills gallery. Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat is an interesting film. The horror and western elements, along with the fantastic cast, really worked for me, but some of the humor and tonal issues didn't work as well for me. Now, I didn't hate the movie or anything, I did enjoy it, it just wasn't quite as good as I remembered, but even still, it's definitely worth checking out. So what did you guys think of the movie? Did the humor work for you? Let me know in the comments.